MN365 for June 10th specifically. I got a little carried away with some Copilot, so I'm trying to make it look a little bit different. So we'll see if this worked for us. But I do want to kind of go through, and we do have a lot of different area services that we're going to be talking through. So first off, let's go into Microsoft Outlook. Specifically, a lot of the ones that I'm seeing right now as far as updates are going to be all for the new side of things. So it's getting a lot of the new Outlook capabilities. So if you're still on Classic, understand that to see some of these, you're going to have to be in the new version. And I know not everybody is a fan of the new Outlook. However, I was the same way for a very long time, and I probably about 3 months ago decided I was going to give it an honest try. And I'm finding that there's a lot more features in there that I'm using, a lot of the newer features, but even features that I probably thought I used a lot, I'm not, right? So keep that in mind. So the first one is this MC700-631 is coming out. And this is really our RSVP improvement. So we've been talking about this for a little bit on some of the things from a hybrid work side of things, but now it's really starting to come out so that you can say exactly, are you going to be in the office for that meeting or not, right? And that's all going to end up tying into some of the other features that are coming out in the near future. If you've heard us talk about something called Microsoft Places, this is going to really tie into a lot of those things there and really understanding where is my team at, if they're going to be in the office or if they're not going to be, that hybrid work side of things. So understand this is coming out here, should have already started to be coming out in finishing up here in mid-June for targeted. Worldwide, we're talking July. Right. So it's really more accessible to be able to access and say, hey, I'm going to be in the office. If I say yes in that context menu, and as opposed to having to go down 3 or 4 levels to be able to do that, or go into the invite again to be able to make those changes, it's going to be right on that right mouse click menu. Additionally, and there's a couple different things that are happening right now with this. And one of the main things that I know a lot of people used in Classic Outlook is offline, right? So being able to go work offline, be able to do all your things, and then coming back online and syncing, that is coming here, starting here late June to late July. It's coming out in the new Outlook desktop client, right? So you can then go in there and set up exactly how you want that to work, right? So you can view your mail, calendars, events, and even contacts. Once it's connected, then it will do all that sync behind the scenes. And there are touting things like improved performance because you already have that in there. It's going to be a quick sync up, and then understand too, there's going to be a storage impact, right? So if you're storing all that content on your computer, then it's going to take up more space, right? So you do have the ability to say how far back you want to go to as far as the number of days that you want to save your emails and go from there. But again, coming up here late June to late July, you're going to be able to get that with a new Outlook offline content capability. And then again, new Outlook only. Early July to late July, we're going to be getting this improved suggested times for meetings. And you're going to start seeing tiles inside. If you take a look at these screenshots here, you're going to see suggested tiles. And that's going to times, I should say. These tiles are going to say, hey, these are the times that you are open. Make it just easier to be able to access it and get in there. You still have the scheduling assistant view like we've had before, but just makes it a little bit faster to be able to get it, especially if those are people within your organization that's going to be looking at this, right? So it is a little bit different redesign, different way to be able to get it. And there's also a find time capability that you can also expand if you're not seeing that immediately. Again, this is going to be a change happening. Please make sure you're notifying your end users. This is going to affect not only the web, not only the Windows version, but also the web version. Tony, that's a great idea. How does your existing policies affect the new Outlook on offline? We'd have to double check on that. I'm not an Exchange expert on how that's going to work with this. But I'm wondering if a lot of those are going to apply to the new Outlook, just because that is very similar as far as how it works. But that's something that we can definitely try to dive into. Maybe even have a session more on Outlook. I'd like to be able to find out more about that, especially with the new client. All right, let's step into SharePoint a little bit. In this particular one coming out here, should already started rolling out in May, but should be finishing up here shortly. And this is SharePoint only, right? So if you have an image that's on that page and bringing it into that page, you have this ability to be able to then apply a shape to it. And you're like, yeah, okay, I can do that with our applications, but this is built into SharePoint, right? So without having to do any of the other applications and doing all that first and then bringing it in, you can actually do that inside here, SharePoint. So again, something you want to make sure you're notifying your end users and letting them know, update your documentation. All right. And then Dave Miller, no, there is no indication of when new Outlook is going to replace the Classic. I haven't seen anything from a roadmap, but understand that is something that they're working towards. Yes, and thank you, Michelle. I agree. Let's make sure we get that on the survey. If you're interested more about the new Outlook, we'll definitely bring an expert in. All right, sticking on SharePoint Online, another end user notification coming up here, early June to the end of June, so this month. It's going to be a different way that if somebody's going to create a new SharePoint site, that you're going to be able to get this page, and it's going to give you a lot of different information about, hey, do I want to create this particular SharePoint site, and what is it meant for, right? What kind of template do we want to use, and things like that. And from an admin perspective, you're going to get the ability to be able to see that a draft of what that looks like ahead of time. You can review past work, monitor analytics as far as the content that's there. So it's going to be a different start menu, really, that home page when we're talking about from a SharePoint side of things. So keep that in mind. Let your end users know that's going to be a change, because sometimes they don't like change. All right, let's step away from all the Microsoft services in general, and let's take up for 2 seconds about the Microsoft Graph. And this is something that's coming up here that a lot of organizations actually use to get more information about what's going on within your services, right? And everything there. Plus, everything from a Copilot perspective is using Graph. Everything from a developer side of things is using this. But one of the things from a developer side of things that you're going to be able to get more statistics. So admins, when they're looking at how Graph is being utilized within the organization, you're going to get a lot more details respectively. What other connections do you have? Do you have Jira connections? And now what kind of information is happening there? So you're going to see things that are being crawled from an index items. All that you're going to see in a single dashboard to be able to see exactly how your organization is using Graph to be able to find the information they need to. Again, because of how everything is now integrated, you're going to need more of this data behind the scenes to really make sure you're on, from an operational side of things, are working well. All right, from a 365 app side of things, so this is really focusing on the expiration date for your sharing, right? Especially sharing from an external perspective. So sharing a link in Microsoft 365. This is targeting here in June, July, with coming out here in July, where you're going to be able to set an expiration date for that link, right? So you say, hey, if they don't use it within the next 2 weeks, by such and such date, they're not going to have access to this, right? So it could be just time bombed is really what it's trying to do at this point. So again, this is one of those things that as this is being shown in your organization that is being deployed, make sure you're letting your users know that this is a big deal, especially if you have those scenarios where they're sharing content outside of the organization. From a stream side of things, we're going to get some added features, right? So you may know that you can add interactivity to your stream videos, right? So if I want to go to a certain point and maybe it's a training on something and you want to be able to put in there a link so somebody can get more information. So now we're being able to actually call out content when we're doing those call outs inside those videos, right? So targeted here mid-May to mid-June, so we're getting close to the end of that, but worldwide, end of June into July. Really, it's about the ability to add those documents. If I'm searching for something, I want to add that document. Here's a PowerPoint, here's a Word document, here's an Excel. That is pretty cool to be able to make that more interactive overall, right? You can do things like interactivity allows you to be able to change colors. When do you want this to happen? Those pieces. But again, those people who are owners, right? They have to have edit rights to that video to be able to do this in the first place. Let them know that this capability is coming down the pipeline soon. All right, so talk about Teams, which is, we know that there's a lot of things that are happening with Teams in general, but let's kind of keep an eye on some of these things. Number one, we got this coming out here, new meeting options to control permissions for admitting participants in a lobby. And I don't know about you, but if somebody has set up a meeting and they have that a bunch of outside people coming into that meeting, and maybe I'm the organizer, I'm trying to get things set up and I don't want to have to think about admitting people into the lobby. The only people right now is the organizer, co-organizers can really do that. But you have now the capability to be able to say, hey, I want to add presenters into that, so that you have that subset of group to be able to also now admit people into that meeting. Just make it a little bit easier for them to for you to do your job. And so the options that when you're setting up a meeting options will be to be able to say organizer, co-organizers, and presenters, so that they can also do that. They'll get those bings, right? At the beginning of the meeting when it starts, they'll get that bing when somebody is jumping into that meeting and you have to add them in. All that is going to be available to them. Plus, then you'll also have Teams Admin Center meeting policies that are set up to be able to allow you to be able to change that org-wide or maybe a particular group that you want to have. Again, just let your users know about what that and update your documentation. Also, along the same lines, but now thinking about this from a co-pilot or anything that's AI-generated recap, the organizer is also going to be able to say who has access to the recording and transcript. And really that's important because by default, everybody has this. And you may not want everybody to have it. You may want to have a subset of people to have it, which means that you can then say organizer, co-organizers, or specific people. But realistically, this is going to be defaulted to everyone in general, and then you can be able to make that change, again, through meeting options for that Teams meeting that you have set up. All right, so that's the big ones that I want to talk about. There are some quick mentions that I do want to call about. Yeah, Tony, I agree. That would be kind of nice from an internal versus external. But, there are ways to be able to, not necessarily just designate internal versus external, but I think I like that idea. But I always use it from hey, if I want presenters versus non-presenters, really focus on that. But I agree. If it is internal versus external, especially on the Copilot stuff, that would be good. All right, so we do have some things around Viva Engage. And if you remember what Michelle was saying, that we have a Viva Engage session coming up here. But being able to have what's called a view-only mode is coming here, excuse me, in early July to late August. And basically, if somebody is in a view only, they can only view the content. They can't create the content or edit the content. Enhanced sound notification controls. So you're going to be able to add notifications, change notifications for more options. Excuse me one second. Hopefully that helps a little bit, the frog in my throat. For different scenarios that you had before. On this one here, add shared folders to favorites. Again, this is in Outlook, in the new Outlook. So if you have a shared folder, now you're able to put it into that favorites area with all the other folders that you had before. We have a couple of things that are happening for Teams phone devices. One of those is private line capability. So having a second line coming in, now the desk phone will also recognize that private line that's associated to that user. So you can get incoming calls, answer them, and go from there. The phone is also going to get explicit consent meeting recording policy. So that policy that pops up and says, hey, do you consent to this particular meeting? You may be joining it on a Teams native device. Then you'd be able to hit the button, right, or hit the consent on that screen to be able to get in there. And then also, in general now, we are adding explicit consent policy for Copilot, right? So if somebody from an organization has Copilot and they want to be able to utilize it in that meeting, then to get everybody's permission to be able to then use that is what this option is going to be here coming out here mid-June to late June. Send updates, which is this one I thought was a very important one because I sometimes see that a lot, is send updates only to added or remove meeting attendees, right? And you think, yeah, that's already there. Well, we're talking about new Outlook, right? Or web Outlook. It's not there. Classic, yep. It would give you that pop up and say, hey, do I want to do it as an update or just send it out, right? So now we're getting that capability here within the new version of Outlook. Good one on Stream about taking up less storage space. I think that's one you want to make sure you look at. And then notify when available, which has been one of those things in Teams, previous version or classic Teams, and even Skype for Business had it, where you can notify when available. And now the new Teams or the updated Teams is also getting that capability. It's live. We'll be live here pretty shortly if you don't have it, so that you can get that notification when somebody is maybe off. And then they're available, right? Then you can get that notification, you can call them. Updated messages, some of the things that we have talked about in the previous sessions, a lot of them have had date changes, and a couple ones that I want to make sure. We did talk about personalizing group chat with avatars, which, yeah, you would think that's like, not many people will get into it. No, actually, trust me, you'll get into that. Just makes it easier to find your group chats, especially when you have a customized avatar in there. That got moved. So mid-March to mid-June. So if you don't have it, you're going to wait maybe until the middle of this month to be able to get that. Share contact information of people within the Teams chat. That has also got moved as well. And it's really the ability to add that contact without adding that person to that group chat. Another one for events, right? To be able to say, I want to limit the presenter role permissions. And so just have a subset of capabilities versus all of what a presenter can do. That has also got moved, as well as, and this one I know for a lot of organizations who are using Town Hall instead of Teams Live Event, to be able to have that back channel chat without having to create another channel, right, or another conversation chat someplace else. So being able to have that chat for organizers and presenters also got pushed. And we're talking worldwide mid-August as opposed to mid-July, right? So mid to late August, that's coming up. And then custom emojis and reactions. I know a lot of people are heartbroken about this, but this got pushed back just a touch. I do want to, and talk about that town hall capability that I just talked about here previously. I do want to bring this out to everybody to understand what's going on with this. The reason why it's crossed out September 30th is because the engineering team decided that they wanted to push that date out. In fact, they didn't give us a date. Partially because, and this is where Teams Live Event is retiring, so it's not going to be June 30th now. So you have a little bit more time to move and migrate from your Teams Live Event to Town Hall is what they're still suggesting. But there was a lot of customer feedback and really focusing on the fact that we don't have all the functionality there yet for Town Hall to be able to really take over for Teams Live Event. So if you are utilizing Teams Live Event and started dabbling in Town Hall, keep on dabbling, please. Keep on going down that route, but understand you have a little bit more time. And I'll let you know when that happens, when you'll be able to, or when that new time comes up, that they're going to say, hey, we're going to end support for that. Outside the rest of these haven't changed, so I will just let you read the rest of this slide here because I'm not going to say that last one again. And that's all I have this time. Michelle.